Captain James of the Earth Diplomatic Corps clenched his jaw as the alien delegation erupted in chittering laughter. The small antique pistol, a Colt 1911 from the early 20th century, lay on the negotiation table between them. It was a family heirloom, passed down through 5 generations of his family. Your species carried this asterisk into battle? Ambassador Vex asked, his translucent appendages gesturing dismissively at the weapon. How primitive. How quaint. The other members of the Galactic Federation Council nodded their varied anatomies in agreement. Some had tentacles, others had multiple eyes or strange mandibles, but they all shared the same look of technological superiority. We find it beneficial to remember our roots, James replied evenly. Humanity had only joined the galactic community 20 years ago, and the older species never missed an opportunity to remind them of their junior status. Ambassador Trill, a being composed mostly of crystalline structures, leaned forward. In our historical archives, we have records of your world wars. So inefficient, so messy. Our species developed neural disruptors before we even achieved spaceflight. Different paths lead to the same destination, James said, repeating one of the diplomatic corps' standard phrases for these situations. The negotiations weren't going well. Earth needed mining rights in the Proxima Centauri system, but the Federation was proving resistant. Their dismissive attitude toward humanity had only hardened since first contact. May I? Ambassador Gore asked, reaching for the pistol with his 4-fingered hand. The alien was from a high-gravity world, his squat body built for strength rather than speed. James nodded. Please be careful. It's over 150 years old. Gore lifted the weapon awkwardly, the small grip not designed for his wide fingers. So heavy, and it fires. Physical projectiles. How barbaric. Kinetic weapons, James corrected. And yes, they fire solid rounds using controlled chemical explosions. The diplomatic chamber filled with more laughter. The aliens found the concept of using explosions as a propellant system for weapons to be absurdly dangerous and primitive. And this device, Trill said, how many neural patterns could it disrupt per charge cycle? It doesn't disrupt neural patterns, James explained. It fires metal bullets that cause physical damage. The laughter grew louder. Ambassador Vex's entire body rippled with amusement. You mean it tears holes in biological matter? How extraordinarily uncivilized. James felt his patience wearing thin. The Federation's technological arrogance was becoming tiresome. Humanity had developed rapidly since joining the galactic community, but the older species refused to see them as equals. An alarm suddenly blared throughout the station. Red lights flashed as the station's AI announced, "Warning, unauthorized vessel detected. Hostile intent confirmed." The alien diplomats looked at each other in confusion. The Federation hadn't fought a war in over 3 centuries. Their neural disruptors and consciousness transfer technology had made physical conflict obsolete. Pirates, Trill hissed. The outliers have become bolder. The door to the diplomatic chamber burst open. 3 figures entered, humanoid, in shape, but with gray skin and enhanced cybernetic parts. Outliers, criminals who rejected Federation rule and modified their bodies with forbidden technology. Nobody move, the lead outlier commanded. Neural dampening field active. Your fancy disruptors won't work. James could see the panic in the alien diplomat's eyes. Without their neural disruptors, they had no means of defense. The Federation's pacifism had left them vulnerable to those who didn't share their enlightened values. The lead outlier approached the table. Federation access codes. Now, none of the aliens moved. They had no concept of physical resistance. Their entire security infrastructure relied on neural technology that had just been neutralized. James caught the leader's eye. You're making a mistake. The outlier laughed. But human? What are you going to do? Your species is even more pathetic than these Federation weaklings. In one fluid motion, James reached for the Colt 1911 still in Ambassador Gore's frozen hands. The alien released it without resistance. James checked the chamber. Loaded, as he'd known it would be. An antique, yes, but still functional. Last warning, James said calmly. The outlier reached for his weapon. James fired 3 times. The sound was deafening in the enclosed space. The diplomats recoiled in shock as the lead outlier collapsed, blue fluid leaking from 3 precise holes in his chest. Before his companions could react, James had the gun trained on them. "Drop your weapons." They complied immediately, stunned by the primitive but undeniably effective violence they had just witnessed. Station security arrived moments later, neural dampening field neutralized and disruptors ready. The remaining outliers were taken into custody. The chamber was silent. The alien diplomat stared at James, and the smoking gun in his hand, with new eyes. That's why we retain knowledge of our past," James explained, carefully placing the pistol back on the table. "Neural technology can be disrupted. Consciousness networks can be hacked. But sometimes the old ways still work." Ambassador Vex approached James, his translucent form no longer rippling with amusement, but with what might have been respect. "Perhaps," Vex said slowly, "we have been hasty in our assessment of human contributions to the Federation." 3 days later, the mining rights to Proxima Centauri were granted to Earth. The official reason cited was uniquely valuable security perspectives. As James packed the Colt 1911 carefully back into its case, he reflected that sometimes the best diplomacy came not from words, but from demonstrations of capability. Humanity's path to the stars may have been different from the other species, but they brought valuable lessons the Federation had forgotten long ago. Sometimes ancient wisdom proved more reliable than modern convenience.